Chair will call the Macon County Airport Authority meeting to order for March 31st. We'll welcome everyone here. We've got our commissioner to make it today. We missed it for a couple of meetings, but we're glad you're with us today. And we appreciate everyone that's here today. And we'll go ahead and get started into our agenda. And we've got first item of business, I guess, is to approve the minutes from the February 24th meeting. I hear a motion that the minutes be approved. If you've got a chance to read.
All in favor?
You say it?
I guess I have to.
I can do it. All in favor, say aye. Minutes are approved for February 24th meeting. Thank you, Teresa,
You are so welcome,
for getting our agenda out and taking good minutes. One of the best.
Thank you.
Our next item of business for the day is on our agenda. It's a public comment session, and I think we got the next item is the adoption of our 2015-2016 budget for the Airport Authority. I think we have not been doing this in the past, but the Lord has informed us that we need to have a public hearing.
Well,
So I think in this we couldn't. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine, but the public comment session would be independent of this, but it doesn't appear there's anyone here for that one. Yes, it's true, Chair, that we have it in the past been going through this process. I'm glad Lori has got us on board. Today we have the opportunity to discuss the budget, to let Member Haycock review with us what we need. However, speaking with Lori and understanding that there was no advertising particular for the public hearing, requires a little notice in the paper. No trouble, because realistically it's not necessary and in some reasons not practical to finally adopt the budget until the commissioners have allocated monies for that. Any adoption prior to then would be premature and would be dependent upon funding from the commission. So there would make sense to have someone responsible other than me for running the ad for our next meeting in April for a public hearing, so that we can fulfill the advertising requirements. You can technically, after you have a public hearing, you could approach adoption of a budget anytime after that, but again, it may be wise to not even adopt it then, but to wait till we find out what money's been allocated from because this is different. We're dependent. We don't set our own budget as much as we find out how much is there and then determine how to use it. But for purposes of the meeting today, Mr. Chairman, I think if we do want to address the budget, it's just going to be information in a work session type with if Member Haycock wants to talk any more about it, or if we've already talked and I think the board's fairly comfortable with the numbers, but we're not in position to complete the process. Is that what you understand, Lauren?
That's correct.
We did have a discussion on, I think, at our last meeting, and I have to go back and double check our minutes, but at that point in time, I think it was approved. Depending on the county commission.
No, he had some changes.
Yeah, we made some
Just
corrections.
line
Yeah,
items.
at that time.
Corrections.
So have you got any comments you want to make on it, Mr. Secretary of Treasury?
No, we amended the original one we had, and contract services changed, and that's basically, we pulled it out of the maintenance part of it.
Thought that was for current year though, not
We did
next
that
year.
too, but we have to do it for next year too. Contract services. That's
I
why
know
we
I
have
did
to
a
do it.
budget amendment for current year,
You did it.
but you're saying you've typed up a new form for your next year request,
Right. Next year,
increasing that?
We have to increase it, so we don't have to do it next year.
Right.
Because those are fixed costs.
Yeah. I'll be glad to work with you. If you can give me a copy of what you're saying, this is our proposed budget, I can use the ad that the county runs and modify it
Right.
and put that ad in the Franklin
That's
Press
what I was
to give
hoping for.
sufficient notice, so.
Okay.
If you'll give me a copy of that, so that way I can distribute to the press, put it in the newspaper, that kind of thing.
Okay. Sound like a good plan.
Good plan.
So, we don't have to take any
No
action
action.
on this today until we get, at our next meeting, maybe. So there was no one here from the public to speak to the authority about any issues, so we can move right along then, since we addressed the agenda item number 4. And we have with us today, if it's no objection from the other members of the board, we'll move down to number 8 on our agenda, because we have a gentleman here that needs to leave fairly soon, and we want to discuss this lighting problem that we've been having for some time. And he's with us, and we appreciate him being here. I'm going to let him introduce himself to us. He has a company over in Jackson County. He takes care of the Jackson County lightings over there, their construction lights, that sort of thing. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Javitz. I'm an electrical contractor over in Silva. I currently do the Jackson County Airport Authority, the hazard lights and so forth along the bridges over there. Mr. Gregory contacted me concerning your lights that you have here around your airport, and Pete and I just got back from scouting the locations to find out how to get to them and so forth like that. Some of them are pretty accessible by vehicle, and walking to them, and some of them are four-wheel drive type situations with a four-wheel and a chainsaw, pretty similar to the ones over in Jackson County. They're 60-foot towers, and with photo eyes and so forth, equipment on them. The ones over there, just by familiarity, I've been up there many times changing the bulbs on those. These ones here are a little bit different. Basically, I'd have to go up there and scout them out and see what exactly kind of lamps and so forth they take up there. I don't know exactly what they take until I actually go up on top and open it up and find out what's in there and make sure that it's functioning correctly. I can cover up the photo eyes on the bottom and make sure that they're functioning properly that way, and then basically just troubleshoot them out and go from there. A couple of them that feed it for me are on turbos with solar power with the battery backups. I can again check those thoroughly and make sure those are functioning properly and go from there. So, but it's basically just going up there and seeing how, what kind of bulbs and so forth I need to put in there first, and then order those appropriate bulbs. These bulbs I have here that I use in Jackson County, I don't know if these are traffic signal bulbs or just basic incandescent lamps, just for the traffic signal lamps, but I don't know if we can put LED bulbs in there possibly. That would, longevity wise would be a whole lot better, $40,000-$50,000 lamp light, and that would keep us from maintaining them so much as far as changing the bulbs and so forth all the time. So that's it.
Sounds good to me. I appreciate you coming over, Eric, and being willing to come and talk to the board about our problem we've had for longer than we should have had. But anyway, it is what it is.
Right.
And so we finally, through the help of our engineer here, got a hold of your name, and I gave you a call, and you was very, very willing to come and talk to us.
Sure.
I'm going to open it up for discussion. If you have just a few minutes, stay with us, Eric.
Yes, sir.
And we'll see if we can't come to some kind of a meeting of the minds on this thing and get working on it. So
Okay.
I appreciate it very much, and I'm going to open it up for discussion. So, Pete, you.
Enlighten us on.
Gotta have money.
That does help.
Is this the obstruction lighting?
Yes.
Just for my clarification, okay, which is part of the grant that we're trying to get from.
Do you want me to go ahead and
Division of
address that now, Miles, about the news I heard
If
from
you could,
Basil?
please, yeah.
Okay, we finally heard from Basil today, and we get to go ahead and change the project scope in order to go ahead and move forward with all these other projects that we're working on, the AWAS, the replacement of the AWAS, the rotating beacon, the complete replacement, and then a couple of payoff of a couple of things that we've talked about. But in that grant, the last piece of it that was available is around $26,000. And I did bring those exact figures with me, but that has been set to be used for obstruction lighting. And we don't have any bids or anything on it. That's what Basil asked me today. He said, do you have any bids, anything like that? And I said, no, we're just taking that last piece of what's left in the grant and putting it toward that. So, with all that being said, we're going to have dollars available because Basil has said that he was going to allow the MCAA to do that. So I've got to get there tomorrow and get this. I have to refurbish the paperwork, how we talked about, and go in there and let him know what, put it on the grant scope of what he wants us to put on there, is what it boils down to, and then resubmit it, and we should be good to go. And the match has already been voted for a while back, so the whole grant's going to be about $129,000 and some odd. And there's about 5 projects that it's split out for, so we should be good to go in a fairly short amount of time. What do you think, Jimmy?
We've been waiting for a while.
Yeah.
Lisa has submitted that paperwork a while back, and hopefully now she's got some guidance on how they want to see it laid out project-wise. However, the largest chunk of that money goes to your AWAS, which is the quote.
Incidentally, been working on that today, thank goodness.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
But that's good news.
It's good news.
Your 2 weeks.
So, okay, let me ask a question if you don't mind. Teresa, you say he wants us to give some bids on the obstruction lighting or the whole?
No, he had asked me, when you do those grants, you have to have your project scope, and for everything else, we had exact dollars for everything that you wanted to do. We had exact dollars for the engineering fees, plus the equipment for the rotating beacon. We had exact dollars for the AWAS, and so on. Well, when we got to the obstruction lighting, rather than us having a bid, any backup documentation, or any kind of engineering fees, we just said, we want to put, there's $25,000 and some odd dollars, it's about $26,000, toward the obstruction lighting. So he comes back today and says, you got bids and all this, which we had talked about this before, and because I brought it, I think that you and I brought it up to him, Miles,
Yeah,
but
we did.
anyway, with that being said, he asked me if there had been bids or anything submitted. I said, no, that's just that last piece of that grant that we want to put toward that. So he says, well, we're going to let y'all do that. I should have had a recorder on because I was on the phone.
You think he would be gracious enough to give us that in black and white?
I think he will. I think I got an email too that tells me
Okay,
I think that he needed, and then he called, and then I submitted something back to him, and then he called me. So I think I really think we're good to go on that.
Finally a lot closer.
Yeah,
We're not quite there until we get the contract.
Exactly, we're a lot closer.
Laura, let me ask you a question, if I may. Okay, since we have very few people that we've been able to find, most of them won't even talk to us about these obstruction lines. So we have found one now. How do we handle this? I mean, we can't get 3 bids on this. Can we do it under a service contract?
Well, like Teresa was saying, there's, from my notes from last month, there's like $25,112.03 earmarked for obstruction lighting. So, I don't, assuming, it's hard to say at this point how much it's going to cost. Like our last board meeting, someone had mentioned contacting another electric company and get them to give a quote for the 5 easily accessible ones. Then later on, we were going to get a quote on the turbo ones that were harder to get to. So I'm kind of curious what happened to that thought process. Are we still going to get this company to just do the 5 easy ones and give us a quote?
Right now, we're not to commit money till we know how much money we got. If things go bad and we don't have enough money, I think we can cover part of his contract, whatever we do with it.
Yeah. It's just the kind of thing, I guess, at this point,
We could go ahead and get
you have that statute with
Well,
you.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got
Yes.
statute.
He do more than that.
Let me ask you a question here.
Yes, sir.
Have you given us a number yet?
No.
No.
I didn't want to.
And
I just got that. I was just gonna do it on like an hourly basis.
yeah, that's
2 men on the labor and,
what it costs.
But we'd have to have a not to exceed amount
there's
though.
no way it's gonna be $25,000.
No.
We could do a contract like that with a not to exceed amount.
Under $30,000, it doesn't require competitive bidding.
Okay.
And if the not to exceed is under that, and if in good faith,
Sure.
what we're working
Right.
Working on
I
it,
can
yeah.
certainly write a proposal up saying that this is an hourly rate plus the cost of materials. You know, lights obviously have to be evaluated first, and once I evaluate the easiest one on Maple Lane up there, then I can know what I need for the rest, and not have to run up to these other ones. You know, I'll have it in hand, and then go to these units and replace them as I'm there.
And if the not to exceed whatever number that was, that would then presumably be in a calendar year? Is that what we're talking about, or you have to, how often do you generally have to service these once they get in shape?
Well, I mean, every 6 months probably wouldn't hurt, at least once a year. So, you know, we
But
go.
to answer your question, it looks like there'll be some terms once they're together, if we're comfortable with them, that would allow us to be able to go forward, right?
That sounds good to me.
And of course, you know, before we sign a contract with E-Tech, we need to make sure that we've got the contract with Division of Aviation signed for the new, you know, to allow us to spend that grant money. Because of course, as you know, it's a front basis. The county has to pay the bills,
Sure, yeah.
and we have to wait on the reimbursement.
Right.
So
So where's that leave us right now? I mean,
he could go ahead and I think, you know, it
Need
sounds like,
copies of probably my insurance and workers'
Yeah,
comp,
stuff like
liability,
that.
and everything like that.
But you need
Happy
to get
provide
yourself,
that for you.
you need to get yourself comfortable enough with the project where you can submit a bid, and if it's on the parts plus labor,
Right.
whatever, not to
Sure.
exceed it, that may very well be.
I think that's fair. I mean, I really don't know what I have until I go up there and find out what they look like first. So,
It's very difficult to do. You go out and get bids and look at every one of them, because it's
right.
somewhat impossible.
well, we're not talking about getting bids, are we?
No.
That's over, that's what I'm saying,
Okay.
he's doing what he needs to do and gives us some.
When might you have something on for us to look at?
you mean it's sit down and figure something out, what I think it would cost?
Just a written bid?
How soon do you need it?
Do I?
How soon do you need it?
Oh,
I mean, I can.
Yesterday.
I mean, I can email you something tonight or over the weekend or whatever.
As soon as,
Next
as far as
week.
I'm concerned, as soon as you get it to us.
Okay.
Next week will be fine, should be.
What?
Next week should be fine, because he's got to look at a couple more lights.
Well, I mean,
Sure.
yeah, we just-
Yeah.
Sure. I can certainly
And
write you up a
you'll know where
proposal.
to send it.
And give you something for sure. yeah.
I'll give you my email address.
Yes, sir.
I'll give it to other guys.
Okay.
Well, that sounds good, Eric. We
Wonderful.
appreciate so very much that you're willing to
Thank you
take
for the
this project
opportunity. I
on.
hope,
And
you know, everything should
and,
work out and
I
get more
hope
working
we-
for you.
I hope we can get these lights up and running and soon.
Yes, sir.
And I just appreciate your interest in it. And I think, well, thanking everybody, I want to thank our engineer for giving us your name.
Thank you.
Because we just was up against the wall, you know,
Right.
anybody right here that worked on these things. So anyway, thanks again, and if you need to go, you can be excused, but just get us that information.
Okay.
And I'll give you my email address, if you would. Just email me here.
Can we put my gas?
I was telling him, we walked all the way across that ridge over there, looking at that one over there.
We appreciate Pete, being willing to work with you, and he's been.
You're right next to Appalachian Trail there, I think there.
Go on there for me. Straight as a mountain.
Got your workout today, Pete. You hear
Okay,
it?
thanks so much, Eric.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your
Yes, sir.
opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, Rick. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. All right, good. Well, I'll call you and we'll look at those others later.
All right.
All right.
Pete, you're a good man. I don't care what to say about you.
Cannot believe so many people live where they live. It's amazing.
Oh.
Miles,
Yes.
can I say something off the record here?
Well, I don't know about you're on the record, but you need to hear something.
I've known that man for umpteen years, and his work and his work ethic is good as gold.
And you didn't know he worked on towers?
You can count on him.
Yes. One thing good about it, I mean, he climbs the tower. You just can't go out and get an electrician. And they say, well, we can do it because we do tree trimming. You know, and we've had some people say they can change the light bulb because they do tree trimming, but they're not certified to be up there in the power situation. falls back on us when we contract with.
Okay, let's go on to agenda item number 5, engineering report. Jimmy, if you would please, sir.
All right.
Bring us up to date on everything.
Got a few things to update you on. As Teresa just told you, conversations with DOA, seems like the grant is moving forward to start taking care of the PAPIs, or not the PAPIs, but the rotating beacon, the AWAS, and these obstruction lights. All that's going to fall under the balance of funds and a grant that you had previously approved local max to, I guess, a year ago, maybe even more. So, you guys had Joel Johnson, as we talked last month, come out and survey your PAPIs off the ends and see what approaches are out there. And we told you we would take Joel's information back, look at it, and have conversations with FAA and so forth. And we've done that, and I updated you a little bit last month, and since then, today, I've given Miles a letter, and I'll pass it around, copy here, folks. What we tried to do is have a conversation with the FAA and inform them of what your existing conditions are as far as obstructions on the approach ends of the runways as regarded to the PAPI locations. And we tossed out a couple of different options, and they're in these drawing sets here, which I mentioned last month, and these things actually just show an existing condition for each runway end. They show a proposed option as to leaving the PAPIs in place and increasing the angle from 3 degrees to 4 degrees, which is the max it can go. That shows you some mitigation of those obstructions, but it doesn't, just to give you an idea. All of these areas that you see in blue, this is runway 7 in. The blue shading is terrain, that's ground, that's a possible obstruction out there. The red areas are trees within 80 feet of the ground. So if your tree grew up in 80 feet, in those areas, you would potentially have some obstruction. And as you can see, if we take that and change that angle to 4 degrees, you get rid of a little bit of the blue, but you still got quite a bit of the red to deal with. Another option would be to add some baffles on those to limit the angle. Instead of it being 10 degrees, that's a PAPI, it would take 4 degrees off of that. So you're really looking at, or take 6 degrees off, so you got a 4 degree window that you're looking at. By doing that, it reduces quite a bit. As you can see, the area becomes a lot more white. The color shading goes away. The ground's still out beyond 2 miles. It shows you in the drawings there that it goes out about 2.5 miles. Speaking to the FAA, their optical clearance surface for the PAPI actually goes out for 4 miles from the end of the runway, and it's a 10-degree arc. By putting baffles on that and raising that angle to 4 degrees versus 3 degrees, which increases your threshold crossing height from a 37-foot to a 45-foot. That gives you an option to mitigate some of those obstructions that are out there and potentially get the approach PAPI certified to within 2 miles. They want a half-mile safety factor. So they're pretty much saying that they could commission the PAPIs, they feel like, definitely on the end here. And I've stated that in the letter there. When we read through, you'll see what I'm trying to explain to you. But it would be commissioned with restrictions, and those restrictions don't allow you to be visualizing, if you will, that PAPI for approach use out 4 miles. You're going to have to come in within 2 miles, and it's going to be a narrower window that you're getting eyeballs on that PAPI, if you will. And all of that would be noted in any plates or any approach plate.
You're going to have to be on the center line.
You pretty much got to be on the center line. And what they're saying, you know, what the guy with FAA is saying, obviously, this doesn't give you an approach to the end of the runway, but that adds some safety. You know, if you got the PAPI out there, that gives you a little more safety cushion. They're not accustomed to doing one that's within 2 miles or having restrictions, but we've talked through that and explained and sent them these drawings, and we think that's a viable option. Now, what has to happen before that can happen are these action items that we have listed, and those action items are survey and clear the obstructions that are within proposed active PAPI OCS. And when we say active, we're meaning, once we decide, first of all, our most productive, if you will, approach to this mitigation of the obstructions is to relocate the PAPIs, move them in a different position down the runway from where they are now. And I don't have that distance right off the top of my head, but it's less than 300 feet. So you're gonna move them and rotate the angle and put a baffle on them. So if you do all three of those items on both ends of the runway, then that reduces the amount of obstruction area that you gotta deal with, and we're concentrating trying to get the on airport property, which you've got rights to, mitigate it as much as possible. So by saying that, we are saying survey and clear the obstructions that are within the proposed active PAPI OCS. That's after everything's reduced down. Please note that the obstructions outside of the proposed baffle limits will not have to be cleared. So we're saying there's a line on here that shows you where that baffle limit is. Even though there are obstructions outside of that, we're only trying to get cleared to be able to put those baffles in place. Then relocate and re-aim the PAPIs on each end of the runway in order to maximize the glide slope and the threshold crossing height. At that time, FAA says that's when you should request and coordinate the flight check for the PAPI decommissioning. They think if you requested it now, they're gonna come out here and fly it, and they'll say, oh, you got obstructions, which we know you have, and they're not gonna be able to commission it, and you've wasted time, effort, and money for a flight check. So we've sent this same information that we provided to Miles on to the Division of Aviation for them to review and consider, and eventually I think this is gonna morph into an obstruction clearing project that's gonna be done on airport property and follow on by adjusting these PAPI locations, and then at that time. Now, a timeline on this, I don't have one. Kind of all depends on grants that you can use for these funds, how FAA or how DOA views this approach to doing this, but that's pretty much the only way right now that we see you're actually going to get use out of your PAPIs if you turn them on, unless you can go out here and start clear cutting and buying property and dealing with something that's within 4 miles off the end of the runway.
Is that 4 degrees, would that affect the WAS later?
No, everything's independent. These PAPIs are just a visual aid.
So they should reduce the cost considerably as far as removing the obstruction.
It's going to eliminate some of the obstruction areas, yes. I don't have a cost associated with anything, but it does reduce down the scale of the areas that you're dealing with that potentially have obstructions, so you would think that would reduce costs. To pick up the PAPIs and move them, that's a cost, but it's a very minimal cost. We're estimating $5,000 or so to put a new footing, extend some cable, and put them where they're going to be different from where they already are. The aiming angle, that's just an item that you go inside the PAPI box itself. It's got like a little cylinder in there. You can aim that up. But if you leave them right where they are now, max that angle out to 4 degrees, you get some benefit, but you don't get a lot of benefit. If you move them and do that and put a baffle on them, then I think you're going to be in a position to ask for commissioning and something that you can use.
What do you think about that?
Well, do you think it'd be cheaper to, if you left them where they was at and raised them all the way up, how much would we have to clear out there?
That's a scenario in here if you look at it.
In other words, if you're gonna move, it's gonna cost you around $5,000 or $6,000. It's cheaper to go out there and clear it.
No, I don't think it will.
Much clearer.
It will not do that. And this is the bigger problem. This is your existing condition, and just pay attention to the shaded area. You re-aim that fabric at its current location, you can see it reduces the shaded area a little bit. Takes this blue back out some. But you still have some, within 2 miles, you still have these obstructions that you gotta deal with. That's terrain, and these are trees. The next option is, this is 7. The next option is to relocate and re-aim the PAPIs and add that baffle, which is this green line here. you can see it opens.
It does shorten the threshold, but I mean,
Well, it doesn't affect the thresholds here, it's just affecting the clearing area for the pappy. In other words, when you're coming in as a pilot, you would be out here 4 miles lining up, but they're saying now you gotta come in here at 2 miles if you wanna use the pappy. That's all. It doesn't affect anything to the runway.
the way the jets come in here, that's gonna be about right, they're coming in about 2 miles out anyhow, so making a nice turn, so I think that's the way to go.
But
Myself.
I think you can,
Well, you know more about that than I do. I'm not a pilot.
I think that would be the way to go.
we feel the cost associated with relocating the pappies is gonna be significantly less than trying to go acquire property or clear
How
property.
about on 2.5?
That's a better deal. 2.5 in, that's your existing condition. Happy's here, you can see the red is the potential trees, blue's to the rain. If you re-aim the Pappy at its current location, you reduce this area, it kind of narrows it down a little bit. And then the same way, if you relocate and re-aim the Pappies and add a baffle to it, on that end, it opens you up significantly.
Well, on just 2.5, how, if you just aimed it up 4 degrees, what all would you have to do to it?
You still have, within a 2 miles, you got some terrain and stuff to clear. So if you don't put that Pappy or put that baffle on there, you see, within 2 miles, you eliminate your out further.
So the best option would be to relocate.
On both ends, that's what we're proposing you consider doing.
Is this the obstruction here?
That red would be something that's within 80 feet of the existing trees. And it's not to say that, you know, we can't see that far currently, but we're taking a map plot based on what Joel did and just elevating or adding to the ground and contour out there.
Well, I
Now,
think
10 years
2
from
miles.
now, you know,
2 miles, most people's turning base in now, so I think you'd be fine with it, really. I mean, you're not gonna be, I was just afraid it would affect the WAS later on, but it doesn't affect it, so.
and to be honest, I was a little surprised at FAA, like I said, when we were discussing it with them. You know, the guy's like, well, I need to run this further up the flagpole to see if this 2 mile restriction is something we can even put in play. And they came back and said, he thinks that's something that could be done.
While they're saying yes with the FAA, you better go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Now, moving it forward again on this, it's got to go to DOA. We've got to let them absorb what's in these letters and consider it, and then we got to look at how to formulate it into a project or into a grant so you can get reimbursed for whatever monies it's going to take to spend. Taxiway work coming up, which is a grant that you're looking at to redesign your taxiway and do that lighting. I think that's a good time to possibly roll this Pappy into that, since you got the electrician out here dealing with it. The obstruction end of it, we pretty much eliminated most of the obstructions by this re-aiming and stuff. Now, there may still be some trees on airport property, on that spring line and stuff down there that's still got to be dealt with.
So Jimmy, what do you need from us? You need a motion that
I don't
approve that.
No, sir.
Formulating it, okay.
This is pretty much information only at this point. I've given the letter to DOA, and as soon as we get their input and feedback, I'll keep giving you input and feedback. But that's kind of the progress that we've made so far on trying to decide how to handle Pappies and get them turned on to the commission.
Very good.
What's the drink thought there? I'll think about it in a minute, sorry. A couple things running in the back of my mind there.
It's all right. It happens to the best of them.
I guess I was just thinking that doing something to the Pappies in their existing condition right now is probably just an effort that doesn't gain. I mean, we could go out there and put baffles on them right now where they are, but you're still eventually, and you could call for that flight check, but when you call for it, they're gonna still pick up the fact that you've got obstructions within that 4-mile piece, and it's not gonna really mean. And Roy stated that we talked to Roy Turner, he's a technical services procedures coordinator with the FAA. He's concurred with the concept and agrees that with the baffles and restrictions, you still gain.
Yeah, that's what I was doing, just making go ahead. Thanks, and they get the money.
Roy's not gonna be retired.
Right. I wouldn't do that.
Well, there's actually, we can't,
But you care
there's
about
nothing we
that
can
same
do, if
credit.
you will, until get everybody's buy-in on this. I just wanted to
Okay.
give you an
All right.
update to let you know that we aren't
We're with you on it.
sitting on trying to figure out something. I think we've got a game plan. We just gotta figure out how to pay for it and move forward.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Jimmy? You might want to address the AWAS again, if you will.
I will.
Please, Jimmy. I think we're making some progress on it.
Basil had provided an email to Miles and myself that he had forwarded on the benefit cost analysis to the FAA. It's kind of in their hands now. We have not heard back, but with that benefit cost analysis, I don't foresee it being an issue. It's just paperwork really that's had to be completed, and it just made that requirement effective back in November. Your AWAS is going in its existing location. They're using all the existing footings. It's just an exercise.
Oh, there's a couple of guys here today working on the AWAS.
I saw the little guy
Yeah.
walking around.
And I talked to them a little bit. They've got everything up and running except the instrument that gives them the seating.
That's
And
just
they've got it ordered.
Well, that's been your issue all along.
Yeah, that's been the big issue.
Now, this is not your updated replacement.
Well, I
This
mean,
is
it's
just
served.
maintenance on the existing facility. You're gonna get the new AWAS.
It's
That's
served a purpose, so we get a new AWAS. So, but anyway, that was encouraging to hear them say that, and they said they ordered that particular part, and as soon as they get their hands on it, get it in, and it should be able to run pretty good. And happy for us.
Would they get value from that new part if the new system's coming fairly soon in the future? How expensive is this part that they're talking about ordering, and how long would it be in use before the
Now
new
that, I
system?
couldn't tell you. That would be, the state's running this whole program, so I'm sure they're
State
aware
pays
of
for
it.
this. The state pays for this, right? See this?
So the issue of
Just
value. is not
issue of
wide.
value.
I don't hear the two girls screaming so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is an antiquated AWAS. They're all over the state, and they've had these same issues at different airports, and they're trying to, can't find parts, or they're having to salvage and rebuild things, and it obviously just makes sense to give airports a new AWAS that's going to reduce the state's maintenance requirement over a period of time, instead of having to spend money on all that. And it gives you.
We're lucky we're getting a new AWAS. There's several airports want to know how we're getting a new AWAS.
Absolutely.
Well, knock on wood, it's benefit cost analysis is being reviewed.
That'll help the board for, get.
Question.
Okay.
The pilot control lighting circuit board, do you guys ever get
It's
that?
been fixed, it's been fixed, hasn't it? Neil?
Pilot control circuit was
The
it?
runway lights, it's working, okay, yeah, it's been fixed.
So the other only element in that grant that we have outstanding is rotating beacon. So it's
Yeah, appreciate you, where are we on this?
still waiting for the grant. When the grant comes, Lori's got the PO she can issue to Walker and Whiteside.
Address that, about the beacon.
Right, it's part of that grant that we were talking about a little bit earlier, that Basil has said, just go ahead and change he's given us the language he wants us to use in the paper, in the documentation to change the project scope. And so I just have to resubmit the documentation back to them with that language in it, which I expect to get done today, not today, tomorrow or the next day at the latest. So and once they get it back, it's hard to say, once they get it back in their hands, but I mean, we're much closer right now than we have been during these
So
conversations.
once you get that approval, so to speak, that's just, the next step would be to go ahead and
Issue that
Issue a-
PO for
Right.
PO for
$9,800.
$9,800.
Right, just like you said, you've got the quote and offer and white sides, so we already got that in place.
And I spoke to
I'll
them
be right back.
last week, and they're still good with it, even though we thought we'd be doing it in November, and here we are.
So their quote's still good,
Or
huh?
June.
They're still fine with it. So,
Good.
No, just-
I was actually talking to them about the pappies, that's how I was getting some of the costs related to relocating those. So they're still interested in doing it as soon as,
You get the green
get
light.
the grant, and the county can get the reimbursed for the money.
So we're getting close. Sounds great.
I think that's, covers it all.
Any questions for Jimmy? Thanks, appreciate your information, you've made our day, pretty much. Agenda item number 6, we've already covered that. We solicited the services of our distinguished treasurer, Mr. Pete Haycock, to go down to the Airport Association meeting last week, and he went down for a couple of days, and he's gonna report to us on what he found out and so forth, and
Okay, I'm gonna keep it short. I'm just gonna say
I
that
can't cut you off if you want.
some of the things we did down there, we got the Division of Aviation, Bobby Walston, and our Basil, and all us there together talking, and everybody's looking at each other, and who's responsible for getting this stuff moved forward. I think everybody got moving on it, so I think that helped a lot down there, because I took what you gave me, a letter there of what projects were holding and pending, so the county, they said, well, why haven't y'all been paid? I said, and Bobby said, we'll take care of that, and he looked across the table there to do, what's her name?
Valare.
Valari, yeah. And she said, well, she'll take care of it, look into that. So, I think it helps.
Well, thank you, Pete.
Thank you for giving me the information. So, but that helps, and we talk about a lot of things. It's the condition of aviation now and those things, and I don't want to get long drawn out. But aviation priorities, general aviation, looks like it's going to be good to be in general aviation. The people who have the airports that are funded, and he said his aviation bills in it, like Asheville, he said these other airports are going to start looking up, trying to land somewhere else. As Asheville gets bigger, they're going to be looking at smaller airports. So, you know, he said, you've got a prime airport out here in West North Carolina, which is going to be a real asset in the future. He said, you don't see it now, but it's happening all over the country. General aviation is starting to come back to center. So those are good things about what went on. I'm not sure about ADO out of Memphis. I didn't hear a whole lot about what, it's kind of stagnant right now, but
Yeah, I think one good thing, and I'll just add on to what Pete's talking about here, the state did have their state systems plan update available. And one takeaway from that is that aviation in North Carolina, out of the 72 airports, contributes $770 million in tax to the state. Downside is the airport's only getting $20.4 million of that back. So they're working to see how they can increase that pot of money that's going back to the airport side of the house, so we can keep projects going and get some more things done at the airport. So that was a big thrust on some of the work sessions and groups to work through that. And you know, the governor's got a task force in place now that he's trying to, this STI that we went through last year, where it used to be your TIP, it's now called Strategic Transportation Investment. The airport's kind of got short end of the stick on all the funding. We're trying to see how they can get back in there and dig in a little deeper. It's a new game for everybody, and Highways knows how to play it, if you will, and that's where most of the money went. I thought overall it was a good conference.
I don't see anything else I want to bring up to this meeting right now. It's so much general information, but we're looking pretty good compared to other airports out there.
Thanks, Pete.
Drive on.
Going down for us, and I know you did a good job representing Macon County Airport Authority, and we appreciate your time, spending your time, 2 days? Very much. And, this information is very valuable to us and on the kind of what direction we need to take in the future.
And if I can just add, to give you a parallel, we had a speaker at one of the sessions, he was a moderator, and he's at Jacksonville, North Carolina. And he said, for instance, he put in for a control tower. Needs it terribly at his airport. Local support didn't, the airport folks did, but everybody else, as far as him being able to get out and talk to the RPOs and the TCC members and things like that, didn't come together. And he said, Mike and Fed project got funded instead of his control tower. So he's competing, showing the analogy of competing with Mike and Feds versus what you're doing with airports, where everybody used to be competing for airports at airports for that same pot of money. And now you got ferries and all other modes of transportation that you're dealing with. So it's important to keep the local interest and on top of feeding those folks at the Raleigh side of the house on the legislation.
Well, we're proud of our airport, and I just report to members of the authority that last Saturday, I had a couple that flew in to look at some property I had for sale from over in East Tennessee. And the first time they'd been here, they could not believe we had an airport as nice as what we got. They said, y'all don't know how much this asset's gonna be to Macon County. This is a very nice airport.
Absolutely.
And so, we keep trying to improve it, and it's going to become a credible airport, I think, before we get through. And, all right. We need, Pete, you want to also address agenda item number 9, about the loan.
One issue, we decided if we do get a county employee down here, we need a walk behind mower. And we've been out and looked at several mowers, looked at some, whether or not we want a big mower, a smaller mower, get on the banks. And the cost of a smaller mower is about $3,200, larger mower is about $65, something like that. If we decide to get that person, we'll probably bid it out and see what we come up with. So we mow these banks out here along the creek and get behind the fence with it. So we have to just go out the bids.
Lord, we have to have 3 bids on anything we purchase.
It's just informal quotes. I mean, it's just like county statutes don't require you to, but it's just kind of good practice if it's going to be like $5,000 or more. To try to contact a few people,
Sure.
and make sure you're getting a good deal.
So this, I think it's going to be under 5,000. I'm sure.
The larger one that you looked at was 6.5. I think that's going to be too big.
That's
for
too
what we
big.
do.
I think it's big.
Probably commissioner knows that when you get a big mower in the bank, it's hard to handle. And we got the big mower for the rest of it, so
Yeah.
we just probably need a smaller mower, about 3,500, something like that.
Yeah.
4,000 a month.
Do we have enough money if we get the bids to?
So we use capital funds, and we probably.
Yeah, so how long do you expect it to last you? What's its useful life?
30 years.
30 years?
That's a great mower.
I don't think any of us will be around 30.
When I say I won't be here, I don't care.
Because I know your current operating budget is tight, but you do have some fund balance, so, that's why I say what kind of useful life? Is it something you'd want, feel good,
You'd probably-
purchasing out of fund
You're
balance?
probably 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, it'd be 10 years, I think. It's a commercial.
Yeah. Down here.
So you can either take action now to say you want to appropriate fund balance to purchase that mower at X number of dollars, or unless you want to get a more firm, solid quote,
What do you think?
and then take it up at your HR.
On the outside is, you gotta do something.
There needs to be a walkway around.
Walk, yes. And that's what we're talking about, buying more of this, kind of like a little bush hog in front of it. You walk behind it, and it's about maybe 42-inch cut.
No more
36 to
than
42.
no more than 48. No more than 48.
No more than 48, okay.
48's a big cut for a walk behind.
But I mean, that's a big.
Yeah, it's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, but you got 72 inches out there, but we'll sit in the hanger.
Yeah, but We need one.
Yeah, we did for what we do out here.
Yeah.
You gonna be able to get that one all the way around?
Well, we need anywhere from 48, probably more than like the 36.
I'm talking about like it's the creek and the bank, you know, and the steep
Yeah,
slopes.
yeah,
and
that's
stuff
what-
like that.
Yeah. I think it could be.
I'd say $4,000 would be the top, you know, be the top. price.
4,000.
So if anything under that,
So I guess if you want, like, to make a motion to, $4,000 out of fund balance to purchase this
Let
mower.
me, I'm gonna ask our representative from the county commissioners if he would give us some direction and some guidance on possibly having, hire a part-time guy to help us down here this summer mowing grass. And understand it might be, use him, what, how many days a week, 3 days a week, maybe?
I'm gonna recommend you talk to Derek about that.
Okay.
I know they're looking at. We've got to add some help one way or another to the Parker Meadows project, so
Yeah.
we might look at that.
Okay,
Same person starting to handle some of that, so I would talk to Derek about it to see.
okay.
I know that him and Steve Ledford have started working on some type of a schedule for that.
Somebody mentioned too, that they may use him in that Cowee schools on the team.
Possibly.
So,
and
that would be a great help to us.
and he'd have flexibility here where you had to do something else.
Again, I know they're working on a schedule, new schedule for
Good.
this coming season, so
Okay.
I'll give you time to mention.
Good, thanks, I appreciate that very much.
Do you use these type mowers in your business?
I do.
Based on that, you got any recommendations? What's their weight lumber? Okay.
We run snappers, just,
Yeah.
we haven't had as good luck with us for some reason. Snappers have been good to us.
What?
It's great.
Great, yeah, great. You ever use those?
Big thing with mowers is just making sure you have somebody convenient to work on them, especially when you're using a commercial application.
Right, that makes sense.
You recommend hydraulic over, of course, a small one is not hydraulic mechanical. I like hydraulic, but where when you
That's
go,
the way you run.
you know,
Hydraulics.
yeah. I don't know if you can get the small one with hydraulic, I'm not sure.
Stand up behind it.
Can, but that's not what we,
But I mean, that's what it's meant for, stand up behind
we
it.
put a salt behind.
Chair, at this time, we'll entertain a motion then that we go forward with purchase of the walk-behind mower for the purpose of keeping the brush, weeds, and whatever else that grows up into our fence under control, okay?
And if you'll throw the budget amendment in with that, so amend the budget, take it out of fund balance.
Yeah, okay.
$4,000 is,
$4,000.
right.
That'd be the max, yeah, okay.
Might look at it.
Who wants to make that motion?
I'll make the motion, what did you say?
I'm very trying to order.
Did you get all that, Teresa?
Just back and forth, baby.
Mower up to $4,000
Mower up
to
to
be
$4,000.
to take the money from the fund balance of that amount.
Yeah.
You need to go-
Does that sound good, Teresa?
That sounds great. That's what I had down. I think I'm a little confused about the second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. And the motion is approved. And thank you for helping us out on this. Okay, other business. One item that I would like to just suggest for consideration. I run into so many people all the time that some of them don't even hardly know where the airport's at. And they don't know anything much about our airport down here. And I'm just thinking, what do you think about maybe at some point in time, maybe late summer or early fall, having an open house down here?
That'd be great.
And invite people down, and maybe if we could talk with Commissioner Ellis and everybody to help us out on maybe furnishing some refreshments, something of that nature. You know, I think
If
it'd
you'll
be.
put me something together, I'll do that.
Okay.
Tell you something on paper.
All right, okay, good. So, what do you think about that?
I think it's great. Are we talking about
It's-
summertime, this budget year, next budget?
It's up to y'all, whatever you think would be a good time.
Next budget.
Commission, you, whatever you think would work good.
Because you're right, a
have some exotic plane or something out here for people to look at, whatever, you know.
We get Gary out there.
Let him perform a little.
I think it's good, I think that'd be good to send maybe even a personal invitation, but I'm thinking of letters in, some people like that, and then kind of see what's going on.
Well, they use this airport a lot.
They do.
There's a lot of people coming in, so
I think it would be good to have their management come through and take a peek.
Okay, I'll tell you what then, if that meets with everybody's approval, you don't make it into motion, when you make it into motion, just go by consensus.
Right now, you don't need to have.
Okay.
Set a date.
And we'll set a date and go with
Just set a date, let's pull it together, and you'll give me this
Okay.
small budget number for me.
maybe next meeting we'll have the other two commissioners, board members here, we'll go ahead and set a date. And does that be all right for you and Peggy?
Maybe send some invitations to the,
All the dignitaries, have some dignitaries.
mayors and
Yes.
towns and mayors.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was just saying.
Yeah. I've been thinking about that, I thought, you know, maybe, that's all y'all first, though, see. Okay, we got an item that we need to go into, before we do that, is any other bids we need right now?
Me.
Okay.
Need you guys to approve your 2015 audit contract with Martin Starnes and Associates in the amount of $5,525. So if you're just making a motion to approve that,
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
5,000 what?
$5,525.
That's a hot dog now.
That'll save you that $5.
Yeah.
You gonna make that motion, Pete? All right.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. It's approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for coming down.
Words barely handy to have around.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of time, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Okay, we need to go into executive session for a few minutes.
There needs to be a motion made and pursuant to the statute, it would be for purposes under 143-318.11A52 would be the reason of it. If somebody wants to make a motion to that effect.
Motion, to that effect.
You got that
I
number?
hope Teresa remember those numbers.
I'll say. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go into executive session for a few minutes.
You're going to take any action coming out of it?
No.
No.
Okay. Allow them a chance to leave.
Yeah.
No.
there- there-
Appreciate you guys being here.